Sir, I wasn't asleep. I was taking proactive measures.
Stop!
Edward Sterling didn't even look at her. He turned to his board with a faked smile.
I told you hiring these flies was crazy.
Serena Holloway slowly lifted her head. Then she stood, back straight, eyes meeting his.
Mr. Sterling, I just took a break after stopping 50 million from being stolen all night.
His jaw tightened. A muscle bulged in his cheek. His face flushed red.
You're making up a ridiculous excuse. What kind of stinking black fly do you think you are?
It's client money, sir.
His voice dropped, ice cold.
Margaret, now, fire her. She slept at her desk.
She pocketed her glasses, walked to the elevator without looking back. In minutes, Meridian would lose 50 million, and Sterling would be begging her. Meridian Financial Group occupied 42 floors of glass and marble on 6th Avenue, and on every one of them the air smelled like money that had never been touched by hands. $50 billion under management. A $2.5 billion acquisition of a European private bank closing Monday morning. The boardroom on 41 had the only east-facing windows in the building. The Security Operations Center, where Serena Holloway worked, was buried in the interior of 38. No windows, no daylight. Only the steady hum of servers and the dry breath of industrial air conditioning. 8 months earlier, she had walked into that lobby for the first time as an employee. The onboarding ceremony was a Meridian tradition. 3 new hires that morning: Gregory Hales, Wharton class of 19, Lauren Whitmore, daughter of a longtime client, and Serena, MIT class of 16. 6 unexplained years on her resume, and not a single mutual connection on LinkedIn with anyone in the room. Margaret Ashford ran the meeting. At 10:17, Edward Sterling walked in with an assistant carrying a tablet. He shook Gregory's hand first. A joke about Wharton. A photograph. He shook Lauren's hand second. A question about her father. A photograph. He stepped toward Serena. He glanced down at the tablet. His eyes ticked across her resume, then his hand, the same hand that had just shaken 2 others, drifted up to check the cuff of his shirt and into the pocket of his trousers. Welcome to Meridian. Margaret will get you settled. He turned to leave. Make sure she gets the standard onboarding, he said over his shoulder without using her name. The assistant did not raise the camera. Gregory looked away. Lauren looked at the table. Margaret pretended she had been reading something. Serena opened her contract folder and signed where she had been told to sign. She did not react. Reaction was what they wanted. Evidence to call her difficult. That evening she stopped at the cemetery where her grandmother was buried. Eloise Holloway, Women's Army Corps, 1943 to 1946. Serena sat for 30 minutes in the cold. She took the small brass thimble out of her coat pocket and turned it between her fingers. You don't need their handshake, baby, her grandmother had told her once. You just need to outlast them. The next morning she placed the thimble at the corner of her desk in the SOC. It sat there for 8 months. For the first 4 weeks she was given no technical work. Sterling had suggested casually that the new analyst handle logistics on 41 while she learned the environment. Brian Castellan, her direct supervisor, heard it as an order. Serena set up coffee, arranged conference rooms, printed presentations. When she entered a room, the men inside said, "Thanks, honey, just leave it there." None of them used her name. By the 2nd month, Sterling had made another casual remark that 41 was a client floor and should stay tidy. HR issued a recommendation. Analysts were encouraged to use the lounge and restrooms on 38. On paper, it was about focus. In practice, everyone understood. Serena was the only one anyone reminded. Once it was Sterling's assistant. Once it was Sterling himself in an elevator, looking past her at his own reflection. "Ms. The elevator goes both ways," He did not remember her name. The cup of coffee came in week 9, an all-hands meeting on 38. Sterling walked past her desk, half-finished cup in hand, and without breaking conversation, he extended it toward her. "Be a dear." She took it. She threw it away. A junior engineer at the next workstation watched the whole thing happen and quietly raised his phone above his monitor. He stopped recording when Sterling left the floor. He saved the file. He did not tell anyone for 8 months. By month 7, Serena had read every email Brian Castellan had ever forwarded her by mistake. In Sterling's correspondence, she was the new diversity hire, the quiet girl, Brian's intern. She was not an intern. Once, almost correctly, she was the Holloway woman, the way a man identifies an object he does not intend to learn the name of. She still came in at 5:48 every morning. She still placed the brass thimble at the corner of her desk before she opened her keyboard. She still played one voice memo from her mother before she started, and never the same one twice. On Thursday night, at 9:48, she pulled on a thread in the DNS traffic that nobody else had noticed. She tilted her head. Most attacks announce themselves. The dangerous ones whisper. The thread was thin. Just a handful of DNS queries going out to a domain that hadn't existed 4 days ago, at jittered intervals designed to look like noise. Most analysts would have moved past it. Serena opened her notebook, drew a small diagram in blue ink, and started to pull. By 11 that night, she had a name for what she was looking at. The traffic was beaconing, outbound communication from a compromised machine to a command and control server somewhere overseas. She traced it backward through the network, hop by hop, until it terminated at the company's VPN concentrator on the perimeter. On the appliance, in a directory that should not have existed, sat an unsigned binary 530 kilobytes in size. She did not touch it. She photographed her screen, opened her notebook, and wrote the date, the hash, and the words "Crimson Vortex Confirmed" underneath 3 weeks of earlier notes. She called Brian Castellan at 11:14. He answered on the 5th ring, voice thick with sleep. "Serena, it's almost midnight." "Brian, the VPN appliance is compromised. I need you to authorize a containment window." "Is it bleeding right now?" "Not yet, but then sit on it until Monday." "We're in change freeze, you know that." "Brian, this is the vendor 0 day I flagged in the memo 3 weeks ago. The one you stamped reviewed, no action without opening." "Serena, Monday." He hung up. She sat very still for 30 seconds. Then she opened a new terminal window and began to hunt. By Friday morning, she had identified the threat actor's tradecraft to a degree of certainty most of her colleagues would have called paranoid. Crimson Vortex, a group she had been tracking on her own time for 9 months, ever since she had first seen their fingerprint in a federal advisory that almost nobody at Meridian read. She found their staging directories, 3 of them, on 3 different internal servers. She found the exfiltration channel they were building, half-assembled, waiting for the right moment to open. They were patient. They were good. They had been inside Meridian's perimeter for at least 11 days, and nobody but her had seen it. At 6:14 Friday evening, she tried Castellan again. He was at his daughter's recital. She could hear violins in the background. "Brian, I have stage 2 confirmation. I'm escalating to Catherine." "Serena, if you escalate over me on a maybe, on a Friday night, you are going to be looking for a new job by Tuesday. Sit on it." She hung up. She did not escalate to Catherine. Not yet. She wanted containment built before the politics arrived. The night ran together after that. 3 energy drinks lined up beside the brass thimble, a voice memo from her mother she did not play because if she played it she would start crying, and she could not afford to cry yet. Custom containment script in PowerShell, tripwire logic in Python, a manual override on the VPN appliance that would quarantine the device without bricking the corporate network. At 3 in the morning, she stopped to eat half a granola bar, The cleaning crew came through at 3:40. The night supervisor glanced into the SOC, saw her hunched at the same desk where he had seen her 10 hours earlier, and kept walking. At 4, she ran the containment script in dry mode, watched it pass every check, and committed. At 5:50, Saturday morning, containment went live. The beaconing stopped. The staging directories froze. The exfiltration channel died on the vine. She updated her notebook in careful block letters. Containment active. Do not log out. Underlined twice in blue ink. She laid her head down on her forearm for what she promised herself would be 90 seconds. It was 6:31 when the glass doors hissed open. Edward Sterling walked in with 2 board members in tow, Daniel Brookhart and Pamela Ainsworth, and an assistant carrying a coffee tray. He was mid-sentence about the acquisition closing. He stopped mid-word. He saw her. His face curdled. This is what I'm paying for? On the morning before the biggest close in this company's history, some little black fly with her face on my desk? Sir, Don't sir me. Don't open your mouth at all. You think I don't know what this is? You think I don't see this every day? Diversity quota, sleeping on the job, and we're supposed to applaud. Mr. Sterling, the appliance... Margaret! His voice cracked across the floor. I want her gone. Now. And I want every keystroke she made in the last 24 hours pulled for HR review. I'm not paying lawyers next month because some lazy hire decided to take a nap on company time. Brookhart shifted his weight. He did not speak. Ainsworth's coffee cup paused halfway to her mouth. Margaret Ashford arrived in 4 minutes. The termination paperwork was already typed. Cause, sleeping during scheduled hours. Sterling watched the whole thing from 6 feet away with his arms crossed, occasionally glancing at his watch as if the firing were keeping him from something important. Serena tried twice to say the word containment. Both times he cut her off. The third time she did not try. She closed her notebook. She slipped the brass thimble into the pocket of her cardigan. She picked up her coat. She walked to the elevator without looking back. Brookhart watched her go with an expression that Sterling, busy reassuring Ainsworth, did not see. The assistant looked down at the coffee tray and did not move. What none of them knew, what Sterling in particular had no framework to imagine, was that HR's automated lockout procedure was already running. Within 10 minutes, Serena's credentials would be revoked. The manual override holding the VPN appliance in quarantine would drop. The appliance would come back online. The C2 channel would reopen. Crimson Vortex, watching from the other side of the world, would not be able to believe their luck. In the elevator, mirrored on 3 sides, Serena looked at herself. Her eyes were red from 38 hours of monitor light. Her cardigan was wrinkled. The brass thimble was a small, warm weight in her pocket. She said it quietly, to her own reflection, not bitter, not surprised, almost amused. He thinks he just fired me. The doors slid open onto the lobby. She walked across the marble. She did not look at security. Security did not look at her. The revolving door pushed her gently out into the cold November rain. Behind her, on the 41st floor, Edward Sterling was already in the elevator with his board members, heading down for a brunch reservation he refused to cancel. On the 38th, in the dark security operations center, an automated process ticked toward 0. The override on the VPN appliance had 3 minutes to live. At 6:41 Saturday morning, a small green light on Serena's workstation went dark. It was not dramatic. No alarm, no klaxon, no flashing red, just a single LED extinguishing itself as the corporate identity system flushed her credentials. 3 floors above, in a server room nobody had visited in 71 days, the manual override holding the VPN appliance in quarantine released its grip and dissolved. The appliance came back online. It blinked, queried the network for instructions, and received instructions. Crimson Vortex was waiting. At 6:46, the beaconing resumed, softer at first, probing, testing the seams, then aggressive, then a torrent. The exfiltration channel, half built and abandoned at 550, finished assembling itself in under 90 seconds. Client custodial data began to move. At 6:51, Brian Castellion opened his laptop at his kitchen table in Connecticut and saw a wall of red where green had been. He froze for 8 seconds. Then he picked up his phone with hands that were not entirely steady and called Catherine Whitfield. "Catherine, it's Brian. We have a situation." "How big?" "I don't know yet. I'm seeing exfiltration on the custodial side. Catherine, I need you in the building." Catherine Whitfield was already pulling a coat over her pajamas. She arrived at 7:04. The SOC was empty. The monitors were screaming. She crossed to Serena's workstation, the one Sterling had pointed at an hour ago, and stopped. The brass thimble was gone. The black notebook was not. It sat open on the desk, turned to a page underlined twice in blue ink. "Containment active. Do not log out." Whitfield read it twice. Then she sat down slowly in Serena's chair and began turning pages. Diagrams, network maps, a 3-week-old printout of an internal memo titled Supply Chain Risk, VPN Appliance Vendor, Indicators of Pre-Positioning, with a yellow tab on the corner and the words Filed 1104, no response written underneath in the same precise blue ink. A page titled Crimson Vortex, Probable Saturday Window, dated 9 days ago. A page titled If I Get Pulled Out, Where to Find the Kill Switch, dated yesterday. Whitfield closed her eyes for 2 seconds. Then she opened them, picked up the notebook, walked into the SOC supervisor's office and found Margaret Ashford's termination paperwork sitting in the printer tray. She read the line, "Cause, sleeping during scheduled hours." "Oh," she said. "Just that?" She picked up the phone. Sterling answered from the back of a car halfway to brunch. "Catherine, I'm 5 minutes from the restaurant. What is it?" "Edward, turn the car around." "I'm not turning the... Your client custodial accounts are being drained right now. The only person who knows how to stop it just walked out of your building. You fired her this morning." Silence. Then, with the precise tone of a man who has decided not to understand, "Then hire someone who stays awake." Whitfield's voice did not rise. "Edward, if we lose this money, we don't lose the acquisition. We lose the company. Turn the car around." She hung up before he could answer. Across the river, on a bench under a leafless tree on the Hudson Promenade, Serena sat in the rain. She had not opened her umbrella. The cold November rain made small dark rings on the screen of her phone where it lay face up on her knee. When Whitfield's name appeared, she watched the screen for 2 rings before she picked up. "Don't leave the building," Whitfield said. "Please. I need to understand what you did." Serena did not answer. "Serena, there are people in this office who are going to lose their pensions today if you walk away from this. There are clients who trusted us with their grandchildren's college funds. I am not asking you to forgive him. I am asking you to come back." A long pause. Rain on the phone screen, rain on her cardigan. Rain on the brass thimble in her pocket, which she had taken out and was turning between her fingers without looking at it. She put one earbud in. Her mother's voice, 3 days old, soft and unhurried. "Take your jacket, baby. It's colder than they said." Serena stood up. "Conference room," she said. "Clean laptop. And keep him away from me until I'm done." She walked back across the street. The security guard at the lobby desk did not know what to do. Whitfield was waiting at the elevator, the doors closed. They rose toward the 38th floor in silence. Behind them, Crimson Vortex was 11 minutes into a $50 million transfer that would take every second of the next 4 hours to claw back. The conference room on 38 was glass-walled, 12-seat, and on any other Saturday it would have been dark. By 7:30, It was the only lit room in the building. Whitfield had requisitioned a clean laptop from the locked spare equipment cabinet. Two senior network engineers, Walter Brennan, 22 years at Meridian, and a younger man named David Reyes, sat across the table. Brian Castellan was at the far end, gray-faced, with a paper cup of coffee in his hands that he had forgotten to drink. Serena did not sit at the head. She sat where she could see all 4 wall monitors and the door at once. She did not take off her wet cardigan. She opened her notebook to the first marked page, slid it across to Whitfield, and started talking. 3 weeks ago, on November 4th, I filed an internal memo through the standard channel. Subject line, Supply Chain Risk, VPN Appliance Vendor, Indicators of Pre-Positioning, routed to Brian as my direct supervisor. Reviewed and closed in 11 minutes. No action taken. The memo predicted with date ranges the exact attack vector that has been live in our network since at least November 10th. She slid a second sheet across the table. Brian's stamp. Reviewed, no action. 11-minute timestamp. Brian opened his mouth. Whitfield said quietly without looking at him, "Don't, Brian." Brian closed his mouth. Serena kept going. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. The room raised its attention to meet her. The compromise is a vendor 0 day in the management plane of our VPN concentrator. Authentication bypass. The vendor has not publicly acknowledged it yet, but I have. 9 days ago, I drafted a private detection rule and tested it in our staging environment. I have screenshots, hashes, and a working signature. The signature is on the laptop in front of me. I can deploy it to every endpoint in this building inside 20 minutes. But it will not stop what is happening right now. It will stop the next one. Brennan, the older engineer, leaned forward. What stops this one? I built a containment vector that does not depend on the appliance at all. Network ACL, applied at the core switches, segmenting the custodial subnet from any outbound path that doesn't terminate at one of 3 known clean destinations. It will slow exfiltration by approximately 94% within 11 minutes of deployment. It is also going to break some things. Trading desk connectivity to 2 prime brokers, the Bloomberg terminals on 41, the CEO's private network drive. Whitfield said, "Deploy it." Brennan said, "I'll push it from my console. Give me 4 minutes." He pushed it. In 3. At 7:41, the exfiltration graph on the wall monitor bent visibly downward. The room exhaled. It was the first exhale anyone had taken in 20 minutes. Serena did not exhale. She was already on the next thing. They are going to know we recontained inside the next 4 minutes. When they know, they have 2 choices. Burn the access and disappear, which is the boring outcome, and this group has never once in 9 months picked boring. Or escalate. Watch the right-hand monitor. Brennan, Reyes, Whitfield, and Brian Castellan all watched the right-hand monitor. At 7:45, the screen bloomed with new traffic, lateral movement. 3 internal hosts she had not previously flagged. A wiper malware staging directory appearing on a domain controller. Brennan said under his breath, "Jesus." Whitfield said, "Who is this woman?" Nobody answered. At 8:21, the conference room door swung open without a knock. Edward Sterling stood in the doorway in a $3,000 suit that no longer looked like it fit him. His face was the color of bad weather. His brunch had lasted 14 minutes. "Why," he said, "is the fired employee back in my building?" Whitfield stood up. "Because she is the only person who knows what is happening to your company right now, Edward. Sit down or get out." He did not sit down. He did not get out. He stepped into the room and pointed at Serena, who had not lifted her eyes from the terminal. "You! Stand up when I'm speaking to you." Serena kept typing. She said, evenly, without looking, "I'm not here for the job, Mr. Sterling. I'm here for the $50 million your clients trusted you with." Daniel Brookhart, the board member from the morning's tour, was standing in the hallway just behind Sterling. He had not been invited. He had come anyway. He stepped into the room. He sat down at the far end of the table, slowly, without taking his coat off. "Edward?" he said. Sterling did not turn. "Edward." Sterling turned. "3 hours ago you told us this woman was sleeping. Was she?" Sterling's jaw locked. The room went very still. Serena did not look up. Brennan did not blink. Whitfield did not breathe. The wall monitor pulsed quietly with traffic Sterling did not understand. The silence lasted 3 seconds, long enough to feel like a verdict. "She was working," Sterling said finally. He was not looking at Serena. He was looking at the corner of the table. "I didn't ask." Pamela Ainsworth had appeared in the hallway. She wrote something in a small leather notebook of her own. Bruckhart did not say anything else. He did not need to. Whitfield, gently, did not let the moment hang. "Serena, what do you need?" Serena did not look up from her keyboard. "I need Brian to walk through the wiper staging directory with Walter. I need David on the trading desk reroute. I need legal on the phone in 5 minutes because we are about to make a federal call and I want our SEC disclosure framework warmed up. I need someone to bring me a sandwich. And I need Mr. Sterling to sit in the chair by the window and not speak unless I ask him to. We have one shot at this." Sterling, and this was the part nobody in the room would forget, walked over to the chair by the window. He sat in it. He did not speak. On the right-hand monitor, a new wiper payload detonated on a non-critical box in the data center. It was not anger. It was a question. The attackers were asking how much Meridian was willing to lose. The answer was about to come from a woman they had never heard of, on a clean laptop, with a brass thimble sitting beside the keyboard. At 9:02, Catherine Whitfield dialed an unlisted number she had used exactly twice before in her career. It rang once. "CISA Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative, watch floor." "This is Catherine Whitfield, CISO at Meridian Financial Group. I need a duty officer. We have an active intrusion, wiper payload staging, and confirmed exfiltration." "Stand by, ma'am." 20 seconds. A new voice. Calm, clipped, professionally bored, the voice of someone 6 hours into a 12-hour watch. "Miss Whitfield, this is Senior Watch Officer Lindgren. Walk me through what you have." Whitfield walked her through it. The vendor 0 day, the 11-day dwell time, the custodial subnet exfiltration, the wiper staging, the containment ACL deployed at 7:41, the custom detection signature warmed up and waiting. Lindgren did not interrupt. When Whitfield finished, there were 3 seconds of silence. Then, "Catherine, who built the containment vector?" "My analyst." "What's her name?" Whitfield said. "Serena Holloway." The pause on the other end of the line lasted long enough that Whitfield checked her screen to make sure the call hadn't dropped. "Wait, Holloway? Catherine, say that again?" "Serena Holloway. Why?" "Catherine, do you know who you have in your building right now?" Whitfield turned. Serena was at the laptop 8 feet away, watching a wiper countdown on the right-hand monitor without expression. Brennan was reading code over her shoulder. Sterling was still in the chair by the window. He had not moved in 40 minutes. "No," Whitfield said. "I don't think I do." "I'm patching in our federal liaison. Stay on the line." A click, a second click, a new voice, male, familiar in the cadence of someone who had given orders for a living. "Catherine, this is Special Agent Harlan Cole, FBI Cyber Division, New York Field Office. Before we go any further, your analyst wrote the playbook your team is using right now. We trained on it. Treat her accordingly." Brennan, who had drifted close enough to hear, looked at Serena. Serena did not look up. She moved a cursor. She typed 3 lines of code. She moved the cursor back. "Serena," Cole said, and now his voice softened by exactly half a degree. "It's Harlan. 6 months ago. Arlington. The DNS tunneling panel. I told you we needed you back. I meant it then. I mean it more now. Serena finished her line of code. She pressed enter. She said without looking up, "Hi, Harlan." The conference room was very quiet. Whitfield walked around the table until she was standing across from Serena. She put both hands flat on the polished surface. She did not raise her voice. "Why didn't you tell us?" Serena's fingers paused above the keyboard. She did not lift her eyes. "I did tell you. It's in my HR file, page 2, under prior employment. United States Government, agency redacted, 2016 to 2022. Nobody reads HR files past the salary line." 6 years. 6 years. Tailored Access Operations, NSA. I left in 2022. My mother was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's. I needed a job within 30 minutes of her apartment in Harlem and predictable hours. Meridian was the closest place that paid above the line I needed. The role description didn't matter to me. I thought it might matter to you. Brookhart from the far end said quietly, "You took a junior role on purpose." "I took a job, Mr. Brookhart. The title was your idea, not mine." Sterling, in the chair by the window, had stopped breathing for a full second and remembered to start again. Whitfield did not let go. "Why didn't you push back when he fired you?" Serena lifted her eyes from the laptop for the first time in 20 minutes. She looked at Whitfield, not at Sterling. Her voice was almost gentle. "Because Mr. Sterling didn't fire me for sleeping. He fired me for being someone he didn't bother to see. That's not a fight I was going to win in the elevator. The fight I could win was the one happening on this screen." She turned back to the monitor. On the right-hand screen, the wiper countdown had ticked down by 42 seconds. 3 additional domain controllers had lit up red. Crimson Vortex had moved from probing to demolition. Cole's voice came back over the speakerphone, all business now. "Serena, the financial leg or the destructive leg first?" "Both, simultaneously. I need you to freeze the receiving accounts on 3 jurisdictions in the next 38 minutes. I'll handle the wipers from here." "On it." The countdown clock ticked. Sterling, in the corner, looked at his hands. Sterling stood up from the chair by the window. "Pay them." His voice was flat. "Whatever they want. We have insurance for this. Pay them and we keep the deal. The acquisition closes Monday or this company is finished." Whitfield turned slowly. "Edward, sit down." "You don't tell me to sit down." He did not sit. He took 2 steps toward the conference table instead, reaching for the burner phone in his inside jacket pocket. "I am authorizing a wire to whatever account they specify. That is a CEO decision. That is not a security decision." Serena did not look up from the laptop. She said, conversationally, to Brennan, "Walter, honeypot first. I need a decoy domain controller spun up on the isolated VLAN. Full Active Directory facade, fake schema, 12 fake service accounts, 3 of them with the word custodial in the name. They'll go for the cheese." Brennan nodded once and was gone. The first nail 1. 9:21 to 9:51. Brennan came back at 9:34 with the honeypot live. Serena watched the wiper staging directory on the right-hand monitor sniff the new target and slow. She tapped 2 keys and rerouted the attacker's next probe into the decoy. The probe took 11 seconds to bite. It found the fake custodial accounts. It paused on the words. It moved in. The wiper logic designed to detonate against a specific naming convention locked on. The countdown began on a target that did not exist. At 9:51, the first wiper detonated. Clean, contained, on a domain controller that did not exist outside of Serena's morning. The right-hand monitor flashed white and then went green. A faint hiss of cooled air pushed through the vents. Nobody breathed. Sterling, who had been reaching for his phone, paused. He stared at the green monitor. That was supposed to destroy us? Whitfield, not looking at him, said quietly, "It was." She moved it 3 feet to the left. In the corner of the conference table beside Serena's clean laptop, the small brass thimble caught the overhead light. Brennan saw it for the first time. He did not ask. Nail 2. 9:51 to 10:19. The attackers, sensing the kill had missed, accelerated the financial leg. Exfiltration speed tripled. The right-hand monitor stopped looking like a graph and started looking like a waterfall. Every passing second was somebody's retirement account, somebody's grandchild's tuition, somebody's house. Cole's voice over speaker. "Serena, we have eyes on 3 receiving accounts. Cayman, Cyprus, 1 shell out of Dubai. Treasury OFAC is on the line. We need correlation packets in the next 10 minutes or we lose the freeze window." "Sending now. Burst encrypted. Check your inbox." "Got it. Read me the first 8 bytes of the Cyprus packet header. I want to make sure your channel isn't tampered." "Echo 7, Foxtrot 2, Alpha Alpha, Niner 4. Clean. Go." Sterling pulled the burner phone out of his jacket. He started typing. Whitfield saw it. She crossed the room in 4 strides. She did not raise her voice. She held out her hand. "Edward? The phone. Now. Catherine, I am authorizing." "Edward, if you pay them right now, I will testify to the SEC that you did it over the objection of your security leadership, with a federal cyber agent on the speakerphone in this room as a witness, in violation of OFAC sanctions against 3 of the 4 routing jurisdictions. You will be in handcuffs by Wednesday. Put the phone in my hand." Brookhart was standing now. Ainsworth was standing in the hallway, still writing. Reyes had stopped typing and was watching. Cole's voice over the speaker was silent. Even the wiper countdown clock seemed to hesitate. Sterling looked at the phone in his hand, then at Whitfield, then at Brookhart, who had not spoken since the corner of the table verdict 20 minutes earlier, and was now looking at Sterling the way a man looks at an investment he is preparing to write down. Sterling's jaw worked. His shoulders dropped 1/2 inch. He put the phone in Whitfield's outstretched palm. She did not say thank you. She walked back to her seat and placed the phone face down on the table, 4 inches from her right hand, where she could see it. She did not look at Sterling again. At 10:07, Cole's voice returned. "All 3 accounts frozen. Cayman just confirmed. Funds in flight have been clawed back into a Treasury escrow. 48 million recovered. 2 million still in motion. We're chasing it." "They've lost the money." The room exhaled. Brennan put both hands flat on the table for the first time. Serena did not exhale. She was already on the next thing. "They're going to burn us. The wipers are about to go from staged to active across every controller. We have approximately 24 minutes. Nail 3. 10:19 to 10:43. The patch had to be written live. There was no off-the-shelf version. The wipers had been compiled with 3 rotating cryptographic checks that would refuse any patch not signed by an internal certificate authority. Serena had figured out 11 minutes ago how to make the wipers sign themselves into inertness. She wrote the patch in front of 7 witnesses. Brennan deployed it in parallel as fast as she could output stable code, controller by controller, his hands faster than his understanding. At 10:31, the 18th domain controller went green. At 10:36, the 22nd. At 10:39, the 24th. There were 26 controllers. Walter Brennan, 22 years at Meridian. The man who, that morning at 7:30, had not been entirely sure she belonged in the room, raised 1 finger. "Stop! Stop typing." Serena's hands lifted from the keyboard. Line 64. "If the null check doesn't fire on a controller running the December patch level, you'll brick every box in the building. We have 4 left. 2 of them are December patch. The patch you just wrote will eat them." The room held its breath. Serena looked at him. For the first time since 7:30 that morning, she actually looked at him. She read the line on her own screen. She read it again. The clock on the wall ticked twice. "You're right. Add it. He typed the null check. He read it back to her. She nodded. Ship it. He shipped it. The 25th controller went green at 10:41. The 26th went green at 10:42 and 48 seconds. Brennan sat back in his chair. He let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh, except there was no humor in it. He said quietly, "I'm sorry." Serena did not look at him. She was already running the verification sweep. "Don't be, Walter. You just saved us a forensic nightmare. Run the final integrity check from your console. I want a second set of eyes." "Yes, ma'am." At 10:43 a.m., the last wiper timer hit 0 on a domain controller that no longer contained a wiper. The countdown clock went dark. The right-hand monitor went green and stayed green. Across the network, the Crimson Vortex C2 channel went silent. They had burned the access. They were gone. The room did not erupt. Nobody clapped, nobody cheered. There was only the sound of the HVAC and Serena's keyboard slowing to a stop, and somewhere down the hall a coffee machine starting its cycle. Cole's voice over speaker broke the silence. "Catherine, for the record, that was a clinic. Tell your analyst the director will be calling Monday. Tell her I will be calling tomorrow." Serena pushed her chair back from the laptop 2 inches. She did not stand. She placed her right hand over the brass thimble on the corner of the table. She held it there. In the chair by the window, Edward Sterling was staring at the green monitors as if they had personally betrayed him. His $3,000 suit was wrinkled at the elbows, his tie was loose, his face was the color of wet paper. He had not spoken in 2 hours and 22 minutes. Whitfield turned to him. "Edward, you can leave the room now. We have work to finish that does not involve you." He stood. He walked to the door. At the threshold he stopped, half-turned, opened his mouth, and closed it again. He did not look at Serena. He left. The conference room door clicked shut behind him with the smallest possible sound. Serena exhaled for the first time in 4 hours. She did not stand up right away. For 2 full minutes she sat with her hand over the brass thimble, watching the green monitors, listening to the air move. Brennan was running the integrity sweep. Reyes was on the phone with the trading desk. Brookhart had stepped into the hallway to call someone. Ainsworth was still writing in her small leather notebook. Nobody spoke to Serena. Nobody asked if she was all right. They had learned in the last 4 hours that she did not need to be asked. When she finally stood, she did it slowly, like a person who had forgotten what her own knees felt like. She closed her notebook. She picked up the thimble between her thumb and forefinger and slid it into the pocket of her cardigan. She walked to a clean section of the conference table where she had laid out a small stack of printed pages, the incident timeline, the patch source, the IOCs, the run book she had written between 3 and 5 in the morning the day before. She handed the stack to Catherine Whitfield. "Run book. Use it. Update it. Don't let Brian touch it." Whitfield took the pages. She held them against her chest for a second before she set them down. "Serena, Director of Threat Intelligence. We'll triple your current salary. Anything you need for your mother, nursing, transportation, in-home care, anything. We start Monday. Please." Serena reached into the inside pocket of her cardigan and produced a small white business card. She turned it over. On the back, in pencil, was a handwritten name and a 10-digit number. She laid it on the table. "That's Harlan Cole's deputy. I've had an offer from them sitting for 2 years. I'll call them Monday morning. I'll call you Monday afternoon. But not about the job. About a program I want Meridian to fund." She picked up her coat. She walked to the door. She did not look back. Brennan had stood up when she did. The elevator descended in silence. The lobby was empty. The revolving door pushed her gently out into the cold November light. She put one earbud in. Her mother's voice played, soft and unhurried. "Take your jacket, baby. It's colder than they said." She smiled. It was the first time all day. The board meeting convened at 6 p.m. on Sunday. Catherine Whitfield presented the incident timeline in 78 slides. She did not skip the slide that contained the SOC's 24-hour security footage, timestamped 6:31 a.m. Saturday. Sterling pointing at Serena, Serena rising slowly. The firing. She did not skip the slide that contained Brian Castellan's 11-minute, reviewed, no action stamp on a memo dated 3 weeks earlier. She did not skip the slide that contained Margaret Ashford's termination paperwork. Brookhart asked 4 questions. Sterling answered none of them. The acquisition closed at 9 a.m. Monday. The stock held. By noon Monday, Brian Castellan had been terminated for cause. The regulatory disclosure filed Tuesday morning included, in Attachment 7, the printout of the unread memo. The Wall Street Journal received the FBI's incident press release on Tuesday afternoon. By Wednesday morning, the story had a headline that wrote itself: Black analyst saved $50 million while CEO publicly fired her for sleeping. By Wednesday evening, a junior engineer at Meridian, the one who had quietly raised his phone above his monitor 8 months earlier, sent the Journal a 43-second video file of Sterling extending a half-finished coffee cup to a woman whose name he did not use. By Thursday morning, the video had 11 million views. By Friday, a former HR employee had leaked the redacted internal video from the onboarding ceremony 8 months earlier. 3 handshakes for 3 new hires, 2 photographs, 1 woman with her hand at her side. The internet did not need it explained. The EEOC opened its inquiry on the following Monday. The settlement, confidential in dollar terms, was not confidential in shape. Sterling signed it personally. 3 weeks after the attack, Edward Sterling resigned. The press release used the standard language: to pursue other interests, to spend more time with family, to allow the company to enter its next chapter under fresh leadership. The release was 4 paragraphs long. It did not mention Serena Holloway. It did not need to. Lauren Whitmore, one of the 2 new hires Sterling had shaken hands with that morning 8 months earlier, sent Serena a LinkedIn message the day the Wall Street Journal story ran. 3 sentences. I saw it that day. I should have said something. I'm sorry. Serena read it. She did not reply. Some apologies do not require an answer. Some only require to be received. 2 months later, Catherine Whitfield was promoted to a newly created Chief Trust Officer role and rebuilt Meridian's security program from the foundation up. Walter Brennan was promoted to lead the SOC. David Reyes was promoted to lead detection engineering. The first hire under the new structure was a black woman named Jasmine Edwards, who had spent 5 years at the NSA and was the second name on a list Serena had given Catherine over coffee in early January. The program Serena had asked Catherine to fund opened in March. The Eloise Holloway Initiative, named for a grandmother who had served in the Women's Army Corps from 1943 to 1946 and had told her granddaughter that you did not need their handshake, you only needed to outlast them. Full cybersecurity scholarships, federal clearance process support, caregiver stipends for women supporting family members with chronic illness. Meridian was the founding donor. Catherine Whitfield sat on the board. The first cohort numbered 12. Serena accepted a senior advisory position at CISA's Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative. Fully remote, predictable hours, 15 minutes from her mother's apartment in Harlem. The brass thimble sat on her new desk on the first day, in the same corner it had occupied for 8 months at Meridian, early spring. The cemetery in upstate New York was quiet at 9 in the morning, the grass still wet with frost, the headstones gray with the kind of light only March knows how to make. Serena walked the same path she had walked 8 months earlier, on the night of an onboarding ceremony where a hand had been put into a pocket instead of into hers. She stopped at the stone that read, Eloise Holloway, Women's Army Corps, 1921 to 2018. She knelt. She brushed a few leaves away from the base. She took the brass thimble out of the pocket of her coat, the one she had carried for 8 months at Meridian, the one she had placed beside a clean laptop in a glass-walled conference room while she stopped a $50 million theft. She placed the thimble on the headstone. "Thank you, Grandma," she said, "for all of it." She did not say more. She did not need to. She walked back to the car. Her mother, Doris, was waiting in the passenger seat with the window cracked an inch, a thermos of tea balanced on her knee, a blanket across her lap. She smiled when Serena opened the door. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted the thermos, the way they had trembled for almost 4 years. "Took your jacket today, baby?" she said. "Took my jacket today, Mama." Serena started the car. She put one hand on her mother's hand and held it for a moment before she put the car into drive. The road from the cemetery curved gently downhill toward the parkway. Behind them, on a small headstone in a row of small headstones, a brass thimble caught the morning light and held it. It had been a small thing. It had held the whole garment together. If this story moved you, hit the like button, share it with someone who has ever been told they did not belong in the room, and subscribe for more stories like this one. Tell me in the comments, who is the brass thimble in your life? Who is the person you almost did not see? Because somewhere, in an office building you have never been inside, a woman is sitting at a junior workstation right now, holding the whole garment together, and waiting for someone to ask her name.
The story is over, but one thing keeps sticking with me. We grow up believing if you work hard, somebody will notice. Keep your head down, do good work, stay patient, and the right people will eventually see you. That's the story we are told, but this story taught me something honest. Most of the time, nobody notices, not because the work isn't good, because the people who could notice aren't paying attention. They are too busy looking up, chasing the next promotion, talking to the people they think matter. That's the part that hurts. We tell ourselves the system is fair, as if you are good enough, somebody finds you. But the truth is, being good isn't enough. You also have to be seen. In a world that only looks at the loud and the polished, being good quietly often means being invisible. Now, here's a harder question. Forget the story, look at the real life. Who's invisible to you? The co-worker, the assistant, the family member who holds everything together while everybody else gets the credit. We complain about not being seen, but how often are we the ones not seeing somebody else? So this week, find one person you have been overlooking, actually see them, say their name, thank them out loud. If you had been in that office, would you have spoken up? I read every comment. Hit like, subscribe. See you next time.